broadcasting for a worldwide audience.
Yes, you're listening to Radio Lewes, where the music matters, and this is Saturday Live. Welcome to the show. My name's Ben Fuller. Now, before I start, because, well, if you were listening on Thursday, you noticed that Si wasn't there because he had to accompany his dad to the hospital. So we wish him well with that. But I have a bit of a public service announcement to make before we start. I would normally be saving this for the gig guide, but I'll forget otherwise. So I sent in a message. Tonight's penetration gig at the Con Club is sold out, so don't be trying to get tickets for that one. And tomorrow's Bad Manners gig, very few tickets left available. They'll sell out by lunchtime. So if you want to get and see Bad Manners tomorrow night, you must get down and pick up your tickets quick. Now I've got that out of the way. Si's been very focused on the 70s through the Thursday live shows, and this Thursday I decided I was going to jump into the next decade and have a play with some 80s stuff. Well, I didn't get through half of it, so I thought I'd just carry on. Let's go for some great, iconic 80s synth pop. This is Aha. That's a 1985 version of that song, and I've done it again. I've forgotten the single button. I do apologise. Let me start again. Everybody knows that Take On Me by Our Heart. It was the 1985 version. It took 2 rewrites and 3 releases for it to chart in the UK. When it finally did, it reached number 2 on the UK singles charts. But everybody also remembers the video. It was a mixture of live action and line-drawn animation. It was crap, actually, but it was never been done before and everybody remembers it. Right, let's get on. Everyone knows this one as well. Featuring on the album Youthquake from 1985, the single was released in 84. It reached number 1 in the UK in March 1985, taking 17 weeks to get there. And it was the first UK number 1 hit the Stock Aitken and Waterman production trio had. And of course everybody knows it. It's a wonderful tune, and we've got some great stuff here that everybody knows, even if it's not for the right reasons. Some of it's a bit cheesy, but who cares? Let's have Paul Hardcastle.
In 1965, Vietnam seemed like just another foreign war, but it wasn't. It was different in many ways, and so were those who did the fighting. In World War II, the average age of the combat soldier was 26. In Vietnam, he was 19. 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 19.
The heaviest fighting of the past 2 weeks continued today, 25 miles northwest of Saigon. I wasn't really sure what was going on.
19. 12-month tour of duty, but was exposed to hostile fire almost every day. 19.
In Saigon, a U.S. military spokesman said today more than 700 enemy troops were killed last week in that sensitive border area. Throughout all of South Vietnam, the enemy lost a total of 2,689 soldiers. According to a Veterans Administration study, half of the Vietnam combat veterans suffer from what psychiatrists call post-traumatic stress disorder. Many vets complain of alienation, rage, or guilt. Some succumb to suicidal thoughts. 8 to 10 years after coming home, almost 800,000 men are still fighting the Vietnam War. None of them received the hero's welcome.
One of several quite powerful anti-war message songs from the 80s. That was 19 from Paul Hardcastle, the first single from his self-titled third studio album from 1985. I've got a brand new bit of shameless self-promotion for you. You know what these are by now. Well, we've got a new show. It's called The Cosmic Jukebox. So let's have a chat with the Cosmic Commander.
I'm in the studio today with John, the Cosmic Commander from the Cosmic Jukebox.
Hello, Si.
Hello! And I just was in here and I thought I'll ask him a few things about his new show, which is good on Radio Lewes. John, what's it all about?
Okay, the Cosmic Jukebox. I think the best thing to do, because it's quite hard for me to put it into the parameters that I've set myself, so let me let you all in so you can see what it is that I've done. Basically, I've gone back as far musically into history as you can go, so I don't mind. I'll play a track from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, not a problem, right the way up to and including the year 1980, which is a really arbitrary year to have chosen. It is mainly progressive rock, it is psychedelic music, but the difficulty I have, of course, is by moving through those years, you do therefore run into new wave, punk, Elvis Costello, all these types of stuff. And that is music I do like. However, to make sure that is covered by other people on Radio Lewes.
Oh, of course it is.
It does, covered by people such as your good self. So I don't play that, and I'd find that if I did start to play some of that, some of which would fit quite nicely, I would then lose the focus of the whole show, which is the music that doesn't get played, the likes of, okay, Pink Floyd, which is an obvious thing to say, Cat Stevens, all these types of people, but also some of the more obscure stuff. Now, I'm sorry if that's quite a long, rambling explanation, but it is very difficult in music, actually, to the minute you set into a particular little set of parameters, you can quickly find yourself, or if I take a step over here, you can go further and further and further, and in the end you just lose the whole focus of it. So that is what the show is. It's basically to, in a nutshell, to play those things that don't get played so often, and to not play those music that, in my opinion, on Radio Lewes does get lots of airplay, and it's good that it does.
Yeah.
But obviously, I've got to stick
some of
to
the
one
ones you've been playing, even I've not heard of them. I thought, this is really cool. And some of the psychedelic ones, because it was such a very short period, wasn't it?
It was.
And all these bands were so, we can do that. And some of it's really good. On the other flip, some of it's really bad.
Some of it is really poor. Some of it there's real hard luck stories. Like, for example, I played the Stone Circus on the most recent show, and you find there you've got a group that turned out 10 really excellent tracks, did an album. It's great. It really is good. They're very varied tracks, but they're really solid tracks. The record company, for some obscure reason, decided on release to change their name.
Oh, okay.
The group got completely fed up with the whole thing. The album dive-bombed and they vanished. Now, the amount of these groups that turned out a very solid, good album, things and circumstances went wrong and they disappeared, is amazing. Yeah, some of it isn't brilliant, and you can see why they didn't. They didn't get where they did. But why not? There is some really good gems hidden away. There really is.
And you aim to play them?
I do aim to play them.
Which is good. Well, it's improved the listening.
Oh, thank you.
Which is, it's really cool to have something like really different, and it means I haven't got to do it. So
That's right.
So thanks very much, John, and long may it rain.
Thank
See you later.
Si.
Ta-da.
Bye now. Bye.
Oh, Jan Hammer there with a Miami Vice theme, reminding you of baggy suits with the sleeves rolled up. And not much else. Never mind. Before that, the Cosmic Commander of the Cosmic Jukebox there, and there is a new Cosmic Jukebox every Saturday. At least it is now that we've finished fiddling around with the schedule trying to fit someone in. It's a great show. I urge you to go and have a listen. We got more of the shameless self-promotion coming up later. I'll have the gig guide and tickets you can get from Size Sounds, not including Penetration, of course. That one's sold out. If I can get my electronic PA to cooperate, we'll have some news and weather and some sport later on as well. And more of this wonderful cheesy 80s music. And with that in mind, let's just carry on for a bit of Huey Lewis and the news. Another one from 1985. That was The Power of Love, of course. Written for and featured in the 1985 blockbuster movie Back to the Future. It gave the band their first #1 hit on the US Billboard Hot 100 and their second on the top rock tracks chart. And as a double A side, it was just outside the top 10 on the British singles charts, where it appeared on UK editions of 4, the band's fourth studio album. Simple Minds are next on the list, and another cracker.
Troubles and doubts, giving me everything inside and out.
Scottish rock band Simple Minds there, Don't You Forget About Me, from 1985 again, a lot from 1985 today, from the album The Breakfast Club. And I don't know what its chart position was, let me see if I can find out. It's Wikipedia, so it might be a bit slow, it might even be very wrong. The UK singles charts, number 7, number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, there you go, I found them. We'll have, no we won't, we'll have the gig guide. Saturday Live wouldn't be Saturday Live without the gig guide here on Radio Lewes. Tonight, Penetration at the Con Club. If you've already got tickets, you're lucky. If you haven't, they're sold out. That will be at 7 p.m. And Jim Glover and Chris Skinner will be doing English Traditional Unaccompanied Folk at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and that's £6 a ticket. Sunday the 14th sees Bad Manners again at the Con Club. £22 a ticket, and they are selling fast. Si predicts they'll be gone by lunchtime, so you haven't got long if you want to get tickets for that. Monday the 15th, Artie Zeitz playing guitar, Terry Seabrook with his organ, and Milo Fell with his drums. That's Jazz at the Snowdrop, 8 p.m, and that one is free. Saturday the 20th sees Dave Webber and Annie Fenterman, English Traditional Vocal Harmony Folk at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and that's £7. Monday the 22nd, This is Jazz at the Snowdrop again. Becky Rourke, sax player, Nigel Thomas, bass, Javier Ferrero on drums, and Terry Seabrook with his piano this time. That's Jazz at the Snowdrop, 8 p.m. and free. Tuesday the 23rd sees an English tunes practice session for any instrument, not the kazoo side, they're not having it. English traditional at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m. and that one's free. Friday the 26th, the Stevie Watts Trio, Soul at the Royal Oak, 8 p.m. and that one's free. Saturday the 27th sees Purple Zeppelin, Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin tribute, Trading Boundaries at 7 p.m. at 15 quid. And Peter Collins, English traditional and miscellaneous unaccompanied folk at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m. and £6. Alternatively, you've got Sweet Onions and the Muztones at the Royal Oak at 8 p.m. and that one's free. Sunday the 28th sees Steve Williams and the Symmetry doing a Sundays in the Bar double bill at the Con Club for 3:30, and again it's free. And Monday the 29th, Jeff Mason, Paul Whitten, Terry Seabrook again and Alex Eberhard, Jazz at the Snowdrop, 8 p.m. and it's free. That's it for the gig guide. I will be telling you the other things you can get tickets for at Size Sounds and about proms in the paddock as well after this. From 1986 this time, that was Run DMC with their cover of the Aerosmith track, Walk This Way. originally from 1975, and the album Toys in the Attic. And it did feature Steven Tyler and Joe Perry of Aerosmith on guesting on vocals and guitars. And it was one of the first hip-hop singles in the UK, reaching a peak of number 8 on the UK singles charts. Now, I told you I've got a list of stuff that the site's got tickets for. Penetration and Bad Manners you already know about. 7th of September sees Oasis with a Y. They're a tribute act, 15 quid. These are all at the Con Club, by the way. The 13th of September sees Zion Train for £15. Then we jump to the 11th of October, the Total Stone Roses, that's 15 quid. Then the Polecats on the 20th of October, that's £18. The 2nd of November sees the Guana Bats for £18. And then the Wooden Tops, the 10th of November, for 15 quid. All tickets available at Size Sounds and no booking fees. Repeat, he has no booking fees there in the shop. And more acts to come as soon as Fozzie gets his act together. I have got one more announcement about Proms in the Paddock, but we're going to have another tune first. The Beastie Boys there, with probably their best known track from 1986. That made number 11 on the UK singles charts and number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. Came from the album Licensed to Ill, which was their debut. Now, the Proms in the Paddock. This is the 3rd of August. Featuring the Jumping Jacks, the Crimson Six, Lewes, Glyndon, Beddingham Brass, the Summertime Music and Fireworks Spectacular, a Commercial Square Bonfire limited event. Adults £8 in advance or £10 on the gate. Children 5 to 16 is £3 and under 5s go free. Gates open at 3 p.m. Music starts at 4 and it finishes at 10 p.m. with a fireworks display. There's going to be all sorts of stuff going on as well. You got the 3 bands. You've got the firework finale, a licensed bar with guest ciders, cake and side stalls, barbecue and veggie and vegan food available as well. That's on the 3rd of August. Proms in the paddock. More music.
Sweetheart, listen. I know the last few pages haven't been good for the both of us, and I've caused you a lot of grief. But put those bags down, okay? Before you make a decision like that, please just listen to me, because I don't want you to leave. I definitely don't want you to leave. Just hear me out. Honey, don't leave me now. Put my head on my shoulder. Have I done something wrong for you to leave? I know I've been a careless girl, and I must apologize. I'll try better next time, baby. If you let me stay.
From 1987, that one reached number 68 on the Billboard Hot 100 and peaked at number 7 on the UK singles charts. And I wasn't going to play it because I used to be really sick of it. But, hey, what the hell. And that come from the album Introducing the Hard Line, according to Terence Trent D'Arby. No, I really was actually sick of hearing it because it seemed to be everywhere all the time, along with a couple of others that I won't mention. But it's been a while, so I thought we might as well bash that one out as well, along with this next one.
Don't need experience Kiss.
Oh, I'm sure his trousers were too tight. That was Kiss by Prince and the Revolution from 1986, from the 8th studio album Parade. Made number 7, I think. No, number 5 on the UK singles charts. Hit the top of the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 2 weeks. Certified gold for sales of 1 million copies by the RIAA. I don't think you have to get 1 million copies anymore for a gold certificate. It's probably only about 10,000. Mind you, that's because people don't buy singles. We're going to have another little bit of shameless self-promotion now. You can follow the Vapor Trail. I'm in the studio with Steve Brooks. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Ben. You all right?
Steve came to Radio Lewes to a Pass It On show, but he's part of the band that kicked off our Radio Lewes live sessions, the Dead Sea Scouts. And he'd been in contact with our lovely Soraya about doing the radio show, and unfortunately she was ill and passed away. So I did the Pass It On show with you. And from that, you invented your Vapor Trail show.
Yeah. Basically, I had such a good time in here, actually, doing the Pass It On and kind of playing music I liked. And then we kind of chatted, and I begged and pleaded, and eventually you gave in. So, I came up with Vapor Trails, which is basically, the idea was to look at the influences on punk music. And basically, from talking with friends and different things, it's kind of been an ongoing chat I've had for a number of years, and it's kind of like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. And to be honest, it's been fantastic. So, been finding lots and lots of things that I didn't know before. For instance, we did in one of the early shows a band called Death, who were like 3 black guys from Detroit playing punk music long before the Ramones, and that was just fantastic. So, it's been really, really cool. And, thanks to Radio Lewes for letting me carry on with it, basically.
Well, it's a pleasure, Steve. Where did your love of punk come from?
Well, the funny thing is, I was a little bit too young for punk in the sense I was 10 when the Sex Pistols were on Bill Grundy and things like that. But the next day, we all read about it at school, at junior school. We had a friend called Gimbo who could read better than the rest of us, and Gimbo read out the transcript, and we just thought that was hilarious. Looking back on it, I think, and I can prove this with an Etch-a-Sketch and about 7 cans of cider, that Anarchy in the UK is probably the most important single ever released in my lifetime, and that's just for the sheer effect it had. What punk did changed everything, at least in this country, musically, and I really love that. But it's also, from doing this show as well, finding all those influences of things that I love as well, so kind of mods, soul, ska, Motown, everything else, all that stuff kind of came through in punk as well. So, ongoing love affair, I guess.
Well, you had an influence of sort of controversial music from your dad, didn't you? Because he was a teddy boy.
Controversial, yeah, I guess so, yeah. Yes,
rock and roll was controversial.
Absolutely, yeah. There was a brilliant story about my dad is that he wanted to get a suit made, and back in the day, you had to go to a tailor and get your drapes made. And he went and got a quote, and he came back to his dad, and they both worked in a sawmill together. And my dad said, "Oh, I need a few shillings to put down on this thing." And my granddad, Ernie, said, "Not unless you cut that effing hair." And my dad said, "Oh, well, I'll go and save up myself." Well, in words to that effect. And that's what he did, yes. Yes, controversial it was, definitely, yes.
Yes, indeed. Now, I mentioned the band, the Dead Sea Scouts. How are things going with the band you've just released?
Well, we're on the verge of releasing something. We've actually decided to take the summer off and kind of, because there's 5 of us in the band. Again, 5 of us in the same room at the same time is quite difficult. And so we did some recording a couple of months ago, and that came out really, really well. So that's kind of waiting there to do something with. Unfortunately, we did lose a bass player, which was very careless of us. Probably fell down the back of the sofa somewhere. So we've got another guy in, Rob, and he's fantastic. He's really, really good bass player. And he's also brought the average age of the band down by about 10 years, I think.
We've had some discussions about where your show could go and other things we could do. So what future plans have you got for Radio Lewes?
My benign dictatorship. Basically with Vapor Trails, we've been looking at the influences of punk, and the last show that I did, we were looking at the covers that punk bands did, so we looked at the kind of originals. The one that I'm going to be recording this time round will actually be the punks playing those covers, and then we'll be looking at covers of punk songs. So there's a lot of scope to go with it, and I've actually got a couple of people that are interested in coming in and talking about post-punk, so there's a show there already lined up, waiting to go. But basically, we can take it and look at influences of anything, so it doesn't have to be punk. A couple of people have asked me to do one on influences on two-tone, so that'd be pretty cool as well.
There'd be a fair bit of punk in that.
A fair bit of punk in that, yeah, as well. And also, I know that you've asked me to pop in on the rock show at some point, and we'll talk about punk and metal. And again, that's a huge crossover there and loads of stuff. So, yeah, we could just see where it goes. And that's kind of the idea about the name, really, Vapor Trails. It'll just go anywhere, really.
Brilliant. Steve, thank you so much for giving me your time.
Cheers, Ben.
Great to see you. Thank you. Bye-bye. 1989, Fool's Gold there from the Stone Roses. That was a double A side with What the World is Waiting For. Released as a single on the 13th of November 1989 through Silverstone Records. It would go on to appear on certain non-UK versions of their self-titled debut studio album, and it was their first single to reach the top 10 in the UK singles charts and stayed in the top 75 for 14 weeks, peaking at number 8. This is another one I wasn't sure whether I was going to play, but I think if I do start missing stuff out, I'm going to run out of music. Anyway, this is Soul to Soul.
Back to life, back to reality, back to life, back to reality, back to life, back to reality, back to the here and now, yeah. Show me how, decide what you want from me. Tell me maybe I could be there for you. However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? However do you need me? Back to life, back to the present time, from a fantasy, yes. Tell me now, take the initiative. I'll leave it in your hands until you're ready. However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? How do you want me? However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? However do you need 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 me? I live at the top of the block. No more room for trouble. No, there's need a change, a positive change. Look at me hanging on the wall. Ever do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? However do you need me? How do you want me Back to life, back to the day we have in this foolish game. Hear me out, don't let it waste away. Make up your mind so I know where I stand. However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? However do you need me? Do you need me? Want me? However do you need me? Tell me now. However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me? However do you need me? However do you want me to be? However do you need me? However do you want me?
Another one from 1989. That was Soul to Soul, Back to Life. Number 1 on the UK singles charts and number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, and featured on the album Club Classics Volume 1. Now it's 3 minutes past 11. Alexa, can we have the news headlines, please?
Here's your news. In weather, currently, in Lewes it's 19 degrees Celsius with mostly sunny skies. Today, you can expect clouds with a chance of showers, with a high of 22 degrees and a low of 13 degrees. From BBC Sports News.
The latest BBC Sport update.
The England head coach Trevor Bayliss has told 5 Live that reaching the Cricket World Cup final hasn't made him rethink his plans to quit the job. He's to leave after the Ashes.
No, look, I've always been a believer 4 or 5 years is long enough, whether you're doing well or not. It's time for a new voice for the boys to hopefully take them to another level.
Well, England will play New Zealand in Sunday's final. It'll be on 5 Live and also terrestrial TV. Kumar Dharmasena and Mari Erasmus will be the umpires. Jason Roy was controversially ruled out by Dharmasena in yesterday's semi-final against Australia. New Zealand have beaten Malawi in the opening match of the Netball World Cup. Lindsay Chapman is in Liverpool for us.
That's right, John. It was a comfortable win for the Silver Ferns, the first match in the World Cup this morning. They beat Malawi 64-45. It allowed New Zealand to try different combinations, but although Malawi struggled, they did have moments of brilliance with some very fancy footwork. Now, all the home nations are in action today. It's a big one next as Australia step out on court, world number ones taking on Northern Ireland. And anticipation for the England game, that's at 7 o'clock tonight, which 7 girls will coach Tracy Neville start with. Don't underestimate their opponents though. Uganda, they've got shooter Peace Praskovia, who used to play here in the UK, now out in the Australia League. Scotland up against Samoa as well. It's all to come.
Thank you very much indeed. Also today, the men's Wimbledon semi-finals. The pick of them is Rafa Nadal against Roger Federer. The former British number 1 Tim Henman thinks Nadal will win more Grand Slams than the Swiss at their career's end.
Federer's been in front for so long, but he's coming up to his 38th birthday, and Nadal is only 32. And I think the way that he's playing on grass this year, he was the one that's probably impressed me the most. But throw Djokovic into the equation, they've won 53 Grand Slams. For me, these are the 3 greatest male players of all time.
Djokovic plays Roberto Bautista Agut. Nadal has 18 titles, just 2 behind Federer. 5 Live has commentary from midday. It's also on BBC TV and online. Now, England's Lee Slattery is going well at the Scottish Open Golf, but so too is Ian Poulter, Ian Carter.
That's right. Fantastic start for Lee Slattery. 6 under par for his first 12 holes. That's moved him to 13 under par, 2 shots clear of the South African Eric van Rooyen, who's picked up 4 shots in 10 holes today. But Poulter is going nicely as well. Very easy scoring conditions once again, taking full advantage. 4 under par for his first 8 holes. He's in third place, just 3 shots off the lead at 10 under par. Couple of early birdies for Rory McIlroy as well. He's through 7 holes and has moved to 6 under par. That takes him into the top 20.
Thank you, Ian. And so to first practice for the British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton has dominated the season so far. Alex Jakes can bring us up to speed from Silverstone.
So Lewis Hamilton has the fastest time at the moment with 53 minutes to go. He's ahead of his teammate Valtteri Bottas, but it is a slippery surface at Silverstone. We've seen real issues for Russell. Leclerc and Norris have all had moments off the road. The track surface is new. The drivers are getting used to it. But only Romain Grosjean has found the barriers, and he did so in the pit lane. We have 53 minutes to go over on Sports Extra.
And that is the latest from BBC Sport.
Sport from BBC News.
Good morning, it's Lee and Adam with the latest update from BBC News.
Facebook is being fined a record £4 billion. That's what regulators in the US have decided in reports from there. It's because information from people who have accounts was taken from them when they thought they were doing an online quiz. Anita Kadri's got the details.
It's all to do with Cambridge Analytica, the British company accused of stealing tens of millions of users' data and using it to help Donald Trump become president. Regulators haven't confirmed the fine, but Facebook was expecting it. And although $4 billion might sound a lot, it takes the company less than 3 months to make that.
At least 26 people are dead after an attack on a hotel in the south of Somalia. First, there was a suicide car attack in the lobby of the Asasi Hotel. Then, gunmen stormed the building. The Al-Shabaab group has said it did it.
The government's planning on advising people how much sleep they should get. That's from a leaked report in the Times newspaper today. It says around 3 out of 4 adults don't regularly get 7 hours sleep a night, and that a lack of sleep has been linked to physical and mental health problems.
New Zealand's government has started buying back semi-automatic guns from people who own them. The guns are then destroyed. Big changes were brought in there after 51 people were murdered by a gunman at 2 mosques in March.
We've been watching a video from the BBC News website about a manta ray that apparently approached 2 divers asking for help because there was a fishing hook in its eye. The manta ray hung around until they got it out and then swam off. It happened off the coast of Western Australia.
And Serena Williams is trying to win her first Grand Slam since 2017. Later, she's up in the Wimbledon final against Simona Halep. It starts at 2 this afternoon.
That's all from us for now. You can check in at any time, and we're always here for your next BBC News update.
That's all for now.
Radio Lewes. Local webcasting for a worldwide audience.
Hi, thank you to Alexa for actually working this time. This is Saturday Live here at Radio Lewes, where the music matters. My name's Ben Fuller, and I'm here for another hour with some wonderful nostalgic 80s stuff. And we're just going to carry on with that, with the 80s re-release of Marvin Gaye's I Heard It Through the Gate. Right, I heard it through the... Oh, I'll just play it.
Some other guy you knew before.
That was released in 1985, a year following Marvin Gaye's death, reaching number 8 thanks to that Levi's commercial featuring Nick Kamen. It was originally done in 1968, I think, for Gladys Knight. Marvin Gaye recorded the song first for his album In the Groove, where it gained the attention of radio disc jockeys. And it's a great old tune. It still sounds wonderful. We got something just for Si now. he worships at the Church of Bowie. This is Absolute Beginners.
Nothing much to offer. There's nothing much to take. I'm an absolute beginner. But I'm absolutely sane. As long as we're together, the rest can go to hell. I absolutely love you. But we're absolute beginners. Nothing much could happen. Nothing we can't shake. Oh, we're absolute beginners. With nothing much at stake. As long as you're still smiling, there's nothing more I need. I absolutely love you. But we're absolute beginners.
Absolute Beginners there from 1986. Written and recorded by Bowie. It was the theme song to the movie of the same name, itself an adaptation of a book called Absolute Beginners. And although the film was not a commercial success, the song reached number 2 on the UK singles charts. And it reached the top 10 on the main singles charts in 8 other countries, becoming his last single to achieve that. I don't often play Bowie, but sometimes you just have to throw our Si a bone, don't you? Tell you what, I'm going to take a quick break. I need to leave the studio, so I think it's time for you lot to get mobbed as soon as I've found it. I'm joined in the studio with our very own King Mob, Steve Parsons. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Tell us a little bit about King Mob. Who is he?
Who is King Mob? King Mob is a kind of it's a semi-fictional character. The first, I think, recorded King Mob was like with a situationist in Paris in the last century. And he's generally considered to be a subversive figure. He's whatever society is for, King Mob's for the opposite. So when I do King Mob, and I also, as you know, I had a King Mob beat group 5 or 6 years ago. I look at everything from the point of view of it has to go through a King Mob filter. Would King Mob do this? Would King Mob like that? What would King Mob? It's not particularly my taste. Sometimes I find King Mob's taste in things is slightly different from mine. But if you take on the character, like any good actor or whatever, you've got to go right through with it. And so that's what I do.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I know you, obviously, as King Mob. I also know about the band King Mob, and I know that you've been in Sharks, but I don't know, and our listeners won't know much about you unless they follow Sharks and whatever information's out there. So tell us about...
Oh, you mean my actual background?
Tell us a little bit about Steve Parsons.
Okay, well, when I was 15 years old, I found out I could sing like black American soul singers quite well. Much to my surprise, and started working in beat groups in the 60s. In Yorkshire, where I lived in Bridlington, and in those days, a 15-year-old, 16, 17, 18-year-old boy could make a lot of money. I was good, and we played in bands. Everybody wanted live bands in those days. Pubs wanted live bands, working men's clubs, theatres, all sorts of stuff. And they would pay you. And nowadays, it's real hard for young groups to make a living out of making music. I was making a decent living out of music when I was 15, 16, 17, 18. Then at the end of that, you kind of think, well, I have to do something with this to make it into a full-time thing. And I got the offer to sing with Sharks, which was supposed to be a supergroup. Andy Fraser, the bass player, had written All Right Now. Chris Spedding, the guitar player, was the up-and-coming guitar player. High hopes for the band. So I thought, well, I'll go for that. And that was an interesting mistake.
Really?
Well, sort of. I never regret it. You know, I had other offers before Sharks to go up to London, which was the big deal. When you're in the provinces, living in Hull, the move to London had to be right. Well, Sharks offered me everything. Offered me money, recording contract, excellent musicians to play with. Now, the fact that it turned into a kind of monumental car crash, aided and abetted by ourselves, and massive greed from everybody, and, it was a 2-year crash and burn, out of which I got a great relationship with Chris Spedding, and that's lasted through the years I went on after that. I played with Ginger Baker, I did solo albums. Spedding produced one of my solo albums during that period. When he was a solo performer, I wrote material for him. And then in the 80s, I moved into the field of applied music for film and television, which is where you just take commissions. They've got a film or a project or a TV show. They need music, and it gets handed to you, and you work with people. I became a backroom guy, and I sat there for many years. Nobody knew the hell I was, but more people heard my music in those 24 years than have ever heard it as a performer.
I'm sure they did.
I used to sit there and when you had TV ads, you back in those days, millions of people were hearing your music. It was quite satisfying in a weird way.
So you sort of came full circle. You came back to the band.
Yeah, I came after I decided to sort of knock that on the head, which was probably about 12 years ago. I went bad for about 6 or 7 years, and I lived in Dalston and with inappropriate women, and burned most of the money that I'd made, which was quite a lot. Had a, and then after that, you can only do that for a certain length of time. It lasted about 6 or 7 years, and I thought, well, better, let's get back to doing something that might actually be life fulfilling and generate income. So I moved back into bands, and King Mob was the first sign of that. And then I co-produced with Spedding his all-star album Joyland, and then that led kind of to Sharks. So, and we're now on Sharks' second album and have done a fair amount of dates, played Germany, Japan, UK, Sweden. Life is fun. I'll be 67 in 2 weeks, and I'm still fit enough to sing and perform.
Well, I haven't got your energy at 43, so you're doing exceptionally well. Tell us a little bit about what the King Mob show is about, because it's always at least loosely themed.
Yeah, well, you've got to have a theme. I mean, in that way, it's more or less the same as when I do music. I'll start with a theme and an idea, but if other things come into that and change it that I think are either interesting or funny or satisfying or just sometimes plain mischievous, then I will... I think the King Mob radio show it's a shape that will bend a lot of different ways. As you know, I've done reggae, I've done Jeff Beck, I've done songs of pirates in the sea. I've done, got a long list of themes at home, and I just keep adding to it. And then as each week develops, I pick the theme early on in the week, and then just let it mull around in my head, play a few tracks, just check stuff on the internet, check on YouTube, just feel around, really, until I get what I consider is a nice shape for a show that I can also tell some amusing gags or stories from my life, or, just anything that I think other people would find interesting.
Well, other people certainly do find it interesting. You've got one of the highest regular listenerships on Radio Lewes. I'm very thankful for that. Steve, thank you so much for giving me your time. We'll speak soon.
Bless you. Thank you.
King Mob there, and there isn't a new King Mob today. There's usually a new one every Saturday afternoon. It's a reissue this time around. It's a series we're calling King Mob, The Early Years, and it's... one of his very early shows from November 2017, and it's called The Beach Boys and Friends. King Mob is away for a couple of weeks, skiving, working, whatever he's doing. He's in Germany anyway, so we will have at least one more of these for next week. But it's quite good fun to look back and see how things have changed. He's certainly still making the same mistakes, but that's all for the good because it's always funny. Anyway, there is a show out this week, it's just not a new one. Back to the music now, and a bit of Lisa Stansfield.
I don't know where my baby is, but I'll find him somewhere, somehow. I've got to let him know how much I care. I'll never give up looking for my baby.
So many things he didn't know, and I was so bad. I don't think he's coming back. He gave the reasons he should go, and he said things he hadn't said before, and he was so mad. And I don't think he's coming back.
from 1989, all around the world, Lewes of Stansfield. Do you know what? There was a time you couldn't go anywhere, and that would be playing on the radio somewhere. First release as a single on the 15th of January 1990. I think I've got that wrong. That's a remix version. Sorry. That one did get the Ivan Novello Award for Best Song Musically and Lyrically from 1989. And if I can find the charts position, number 1 on the UK singles charts, number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, and number 1 on the dance club songs and R&B hip hop songs in the US as well. Time is pushing on. We'll get one more in, and then I think I'll give you the gig guide again if you've just joined us, because it's not very long, and there's some good stuff on it. I'm going to play this one. I really didn't want to, but my missus insisted. This is Rick Astley. An opportunity for a bit of Rick roll in there. If you don't know what that is, while you're going down to Si for your Bad Manners tickets, ask him to show you. He'll explain it. Never Gonna Give You Up. Probably the best known song from Rick Astley from 1987. And that stayed at the top of the chart for 5 weeks. And was the best selling single of the year. Who knows why? Who knows why indeed. Okay, right, down to the gig guide. Penetration tonight at the Con Club at 7 p.m. It's 18 quid, but it's sold out. Or Jim Glover and Chris Skinner, English traditional unaccompanied folk, at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and that one is £6. Sunday, as promised, Bad Manners, Scar at the Con Club at 7:30, £22 a ticket. There might be a couple left if you get yourself down to Si. You can ask him about Rick Rolling while you're at it. Monday the 15th, Artie Zeitz, Terry Seabrook and Milo Fell, Jazz at the Snowdrop, 8 p.m, and that one's free. Saturday the 20th, Dave Webber and Annie Fenterman, English folk and vocal harmony, Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and £7. Monday the 22nd, sees Becky Rourke, Nigel Thomas, Javier Ferrero and Terry Seabrook again at the Snowdrop at 8 p.m. We're pretty sure he doesn't leave that place, although he's moved a piano in as well this time, not just the organ. Tuesday the 23rd, English tunes practice session for any instrument, English traditional folk at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and that one is free. Friday the 26th is the Stevie Watts Trio, Soul at the Royal Oak at 8 p.m, and again our favourite price. Saturday the 27th sees Purple Zeppelin, Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin tribute, Trading Boundaries at 7 p.m, 15 quid. Peter Collins, English traditional folk at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and that one is £6. And Sweet Onions and the Muztones at the Royal Oak at 8 p.m, and again that one's our favourite price. Sunday the 28th sees Steve Williams and the Cemetery. Sundays in the Bar double bill at the Con Club, 3:30, and our favourite price again. And the last one is Jazz at the Snowdrop again with Jeff Mason, Paul Whitten, Terry Seabrook of course, and Alex Eberhard, 8 p.m, and it's free. That is it for the gig guide again for this week. Proms in the Paddock, of course, is on the 3rd of August. I'll tell you about that again after this.
Children behave. That's what they say when we're together. And watch how you play.
1987, that was Tiffany with her cover. That made number one on the UK singles charts. Originally, of course, it was Tommy James and the Shondells from 1967, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the 60s then. We're going to carry on with the music for a little while before I go back to the shameless self-promotion, and this is another fantastic lady from the 80s, Belinda Carlisle.
Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. They say in heaven, love comes first. We'll make heaven our place on earth. Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. When the night falls down, I wait for you as you come around, and the world's alive with the sound of kids on the street outside. When you walk into the room, you pull me close and we start to move, and we're spinning with the stars above, and you lift me up in a web of love. Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. They say in heaven, love comes first. We'll make heaven a place on earth. Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. When I feel alone, I reach for you and you bring me home. When I'm lost at sea, I hear your voice and it carries me. In this world we're just beginning to understand the miracle of living. Baby, I was afraid before, but I'm not afraid anymore. Baby, do you know what that's worth? Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. They say in heaven, love comes first. We'll make heaven a place on earth. Ooh, heaven is a place on In this world we're just beginning to understand the miracle of living. Baby, I was afraid before, but I'm not afraid anymore. Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. They say in heaven, love comes first. We'll make heaven a place on earth. Ooh, heaven is 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 a place on earth.
From 1987, that appeared on her second studio album, Heaven on Earth, and it hit number one on the US Billboard Hot 100 on December the 5th, 1987, becoming Carlisle's only US chart topper to date, and a month later it hit the number one spot in the UK, and it held that for 2 weeks, which these days is pretty good going. I haven't heard this next track in absolutely ages, but before I play that, I'm going to play this.
Right, Ben, come here.
What do you want?
Oh, I want to ask you about your rock show. You've been badgering me about all mine, and I thought it's about time you had yours done. So, right, tell me about your rock show. What's it all about?
My rock show, it's about bringing fantastic rock music to a wider audience. Simple as that. I try and find all the best new stuff. I still play all the old classic stuff.
Well, you have to.
And I bring my love of rock music to a wider audience. That's really all it is. I just want to prove to people that rock music is just not a loud, horrible noise like Motorhead.
Was it not? Oh. So, why do you like rock music? Where did that come from?
Actually, I was very, very young, and I was quite often babysat by my cousin Caroline, who was a huge AC/DC fan, and she used to play that to make me go to sleep.
Oh, well, that's a good one.
AC/DC were my lullabies.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, that was it. It was a great sound. I've loved it since I was a toddler.
That's cool. That's good. Well, I've been listening to it as well, and I've found a few things that I've not heard of before. Some of them I thought, oh, really? Is that rock? I mean, yeah, it's good. And as long as you keep finding it, your mole does a good job for you.
My mole, he finds all sorts of stuff for me that I haven't got time to look for.
Well, keep on the good work and keep on rocking.
Absolutely.
That's it. Ta-da.
Is that it then?
That's it. I've got nothing else to say to you because it's just so good.
Oh, all
I
right,
thought that'll do.
Okay.
Fed up with you chasing me. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy this trip. Enjoy this trip. And it is a trip.
Countdown is progressing.
1, 2, 3, 4.
From 1988, the theme from S Express, from their debut studio album, the original soundtrack. That peaked at number 1 in the UK singles charts and stayed there for 2 weeks, just like Belinda Carlisle. I don't know this next one. It's called Good Life by Inner City.
Let me take you to a place I know you wanna go. It's a good life. Hey, 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 yeah. I don't wanna stand around and beg you. Just don't say no. No, 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 no. I have got a feeling that you're gonna like it. What I'm doing to you. And I'm doing what I'm doing. I'll be doing what you want me to do. Love is shining, life is thriving in the good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life in the good life, good life. Feeling that you get from the good life. Hey, once you get that good life feeling, let me tell you, no one can take it away. No, 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 no. No more bad times, only glad times in the good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life in the good life, good life. Good life, good life, good life, good life in the good life, good life. When the grooves are rocking, nothing feels as good as a good life. I want you to want me to want the good life all night. No more raining days, the sun will chase the clouds away in the good life. Good life, good life, good life, good life in the good life, good life. Good life, good life, good life, good life in the good life, good life. Good life, good life, good life, good life in the good life, good life. No more sorrow, nothing borrowed in the good life, good life. Good life, good life, good life, good life in the good life, good life.
There you go, Good Life from Inner City. That made number 4 on the UK singles charts. And I don't know what it is. I've never heard it before. Never mind. I'm afraid that's the end of the show, though. You've been listening to Saturday Live here on Radio Lewes, where the music matters. I've been Ben Fuller, playing some very unusual stuff for me. I got one more. It's called The Lambada. Swazi should be back in the hot seat next week, but if she's not, you'll have to put up with me again. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, bye-bye.
Radio Lewes. Local webcasting for a worldwide audience.